Oh, good stuff, guys. Thanks so much for joining us on The Loop. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Next stop, Sherry.
To a call where we were to assist somebody who may be hurting themselves, and what we knew going in there that there was also children in the residence. So upon getting there, it escalated very quickly with a lot of screaming, unfortunately from the children. It escalated to trying to break the door down. It escalated to the kids jumping off what we call like a two-story balcony from these apartments. It led to then the kids, us finding the kids covered with blood. Not knowing how and where they got these injuries or what we thought were from. And it led to a lot of our officers being fired at from this individual. And eventually, and unfortunately, it led to this guy, this gentleman, taking his own life. And we were trying to protect the kids in the midst of all of this, as well as protecting ourselves and the community and the apartment complex within itself.
How old were those kids? I mean, this must have been so traumatic for them, and also for the officers and the responders needing to keep a level head when I'm sure this was a traumatic situation to respond to for you all as well.
I don't remember exactly the ages of the kids, but I believe they were between 10 and 14 years old. It was a very scary situation when you hear kids yelling for help inside an apartment and you can't get to them. And for officers, a lot of us also being, parents ourselves, it's very easy for us to relate to those kids and want to help them in any way we can and get them out safely. For the officers, this is one of the scariest calls you get during your career, and hopefully for most, you don't get it very often. But that day came for us, and we responded as we needed to and did what we could. Some things were out of our control, but the things that we had in our control, we were able to use and, have a successful outcome in that the officers were not injured, the kids were not injured. Unfortunately, the individual we were originally called, therefore, decided to take his own life, but it would have been great if we could have helped him too.
And you mentioned that the kids, there was blood on the kids, but they were not injured. Where did that come from?
To my understanding, it came from their dad, who at the time we believe he was cutting himself. To what extent we did not know at the time, but to our understanding, the blood came from their father.
And how do you, as officers, as first responders, keep your composure in a scene like this with a lot of moving parts? I'm sure it was somewhat of a chaotic scene, likely with the fire department there as well, I can imagine. What do you do when you first get to a scene and have to assess what's happening, what's unfolding, and getting these kids to safety?
It could be a very difficult question to answer because there is a lot that goes into it. We rely on our training, though. We train for this type of thing. We hope it never happens, but we do train for this frequently. We talk about it in our roll calls or just amongst officers on a shift. What are we going to do in this situation if this happens in this location? Where are we going to go for cover? Where can we go to safety? Where can we take the kids to safety? Things like that. we really just kind of, you have to go there, look, listen, kind of get some information, because often when we go to calls, we don't have a whole lot of information. So we really didn't have a lot going in, and you just have to gather the information is what you're seeing when you're pulling up. We also, wanted to try and talk to the gentleman first, off the bat, but unfortunately that was not something that we could have done. The fire department, they arrived on scene shortly after, and they stay out of the area, kind of off scene a little bit until we deem it safe for them to come in. So we do try to control that scene as much as possible. In this situation, one of the challenges was that this was in an apartment complex, a very heavily populated apartment complex, and so we were very worried about all the people outside in the parking lot, and then also all the people in their neighboring apartments to where this gentleman and those kids lived.
And this is such a heavy topic, but so many people are struggling with mental health, and we do want to share with our viewers, if you or anyone you know is struggling, 988 is the suicide and crisis lifeline. Help is available. I want to get back to your training when it comes to mental health and approaching individuals who may be undergoing a crisis. You mentioned negotiations would have been ideal in this situation, maybe not possible, but what does some of that training look like when you do have an individual who is threatening to take their own life?
For that training, we go through lots of training for that every year. It's mandated now as well by state statute, and our department finds that to be a very important training as it is, even before it was mandated by state law. So we do a lot of online training. We have in-person training, what they call CIT training, critical incident team training, and all of our officers here at Batavia Police Department go through that training. Some departments only do groups of officers so that they just have a team, but every single one of our officers here at Batavia go through that training, and we keep up with it after the fact. We do scenario-based training as well, where we have role players who play, not characters, but individuals who are dealing with a mental health crisis. And many of those individuals during that training and those role players, they're actually people who have experienced this in their own personal life, and they want to make it better for officers and the interaction with officers and people going through those difficulties. Better, and have a better more positive outcomes and a better relationship between us and those people. So we do that kind of training as well, and department wide, and also other departments do that too. That's a very important topic in law enforcement today.
And how long have each of you been with the department?
I've been with the department for 18 years.
Wow.
I'm going on 8 years here at Batavia.
And what makes each of you, what made you want to get into serving the community in a law enforcement capacity? What inspires you to continue doing it each and every day?
For me, I come from a family of law enforcement. Many members of my family have been in law enforcement and continue to join law enforcement. So as I joke with my family that it was kind of in my blood. But also, and I know it sounds cliche, but I really wanted to be able to help people. I truly wanted to be able to do that and serve my country. I didn't feel the military, though, was the proper place for me. So I decided to go into law enforcement. I actually have a business administration degree, so I had planned originally to go into, the business world. But when I got towards the end of my college career, I realized that's not what I wanted to do, and that I definitely wanted to be in law enforcement, and I'm happy with that decision. Wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah,
you followed your passion. And how about you, officer?
And for me, when you're in kindergarten, they ask you what you want to do when you're older. Mine was a police officer. I did not have family in law enforcement, nor cousins or even close friends, so this was a very I believe it was just instilled in me. I think it was one of those things I truly do feel like I was meant to do and be in profession-wise. So I pursued that as I came into my high school age, and so I pursued it since.
Awesome. Now, I know you likely can't get into details about the two children involved in this situation, but can you speak more broadly to what happens next after something like this? I'm sure there are resources that the community provides to the families to help those kids recover mentally or physically, if that is the case. But talk a little bit about, just in general, what happens following a situation and a tragic scene like this one, where we do know that their father died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound?
Sure. So immediately, what we do is once we get control of the scene and everything, and once we got those kids removed, we got them over to the paramedics to make sure they were okay, because they did have the blood on them that ended up being from their father. Unfortunately, because of how the situation unfolded and our involvement, we don't do a lot of the follow-up investigation. We're kind of kept separate from that. There's an internal investigation within the police department just to make sure that our actions were appropriate, not only through law, but also through department policy. And we get, any kind of support we need as well. For the kids also get that support. We offer as much support as we can as a city to not only the kids but the family as well. We have social workers that we work with, we have chaplains that we work with, and all of that is offered to them. And that's in an ongoing process for them. It's free to them. They do not incur any kind of cost from that if they go through us. And of course, they're able to go their own route and see their own physicians or support groups for that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for being with us, and congratulations. Anything else that you want our viewers to know?
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here to be able to talk about it again. Our condolences, as always, go out to the family for the gentleman who ended up not making it that day. We haven't had any, as officers, we have not had any direct contact with the kids because of the ongoing investigations after the fact. So we certainly want to wish them the best, and we hope they're okay and doing well, as well as, just the fact that we feel so blessed that we were able to make it through that situation unharmed, and the kids too. So even though we share our condolences, we do feel very blessed and happy that we're able to be here to talk about it, and proud that we received these awards. As a sergeant working on the shift, and Officer Saad working with me on the shift, and Sergeant Lorden and Officer Bueller, I'm very proud of those officers. I know Sergeant Lorden would say the same thing. We're very proud of our officers and how they worked with us that day. It was just a very well organized response for such a chaotic moment. So I want to express my pride in them, and my pride to be working with them.
Officer Saad and Sergeant Langston, thank you so much for joining us here on Chicago Live.
Thank you.
And we just want to reiterate again, if you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health, is thinking about taking their own life, the lifeline that you can call, it is a 24-hour hotline, is 988. There is help available. There are resources out there. Simply dial 988 and you will be directed to someone around the clock who can help. As Sergeant Langston mentioned, a very grateful outcome that those two children were not harmed. But of course, still a tragic and heavy situation that their father took his own life. Again, that suicide hotline is 988. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We've got much more coming up today on this Tuesday. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I'm Casey Cronus. The time is just about 1:16. Well, our next guest is here to talk about a really incredible donation and a surprise donation that was received by someone from Barstool. You may know him, Big Cat. We are bringing in now Levante Stewart from Lost Boys. We want to chat a little bit about this exciting donation and how it is going to help the organization. Levante Stewart from Lost Boys, Inc., thank you so much for being with us today.
Casey, thank you for having me.
So, okay, walk us through what happened. Big Cat from Barstool reaches out to you and notifies you that he is donating his winnings from the Cubs 50-50 raffle. When did this happen? How much was donated to your organization?
So it's a very interesting story, Casey. I mean, it's like something straight out of a movie, so I'll try to use a little
I love
brevity
it.
here and
Tell
the
us.
story. So what's kind of triggered interest is yesterday, Big Cat was at the Cubs game and he was presented with the big check from winning the 50-50 raffle. And now anyone that knows Barstool and Big Cat, Dan has been trying to win this 50-50 raffle with the Cubs for years. So this all started.
Me too, Levante.
Yes. So this all started, Casey, this time last year in July. We had hit what's called a fiscal cliff for a nonprofit. There was a lot of rollbacks in government funding, and we had become very government funding heavy and reliant. And so we had, more than tripled our budget. In prior years, at start of COVID, we went from an $800,000 organization to about a $1.9 million organization. And in the summer of 2025, a lot of these grants weren't coming back because they were driven by COVID dollars or ARPA dollars. And we weren't sure how we were going to deal with it. The nature of nonprofits is really tricky. And immediately we had to cut 60% of our staff. And the staff that was left, we all had to go down to a 25% pay rate. And so it's been like that for 13 months. It's still that way right now. But the pendulum swings backwards and forwards, and it's coming back. And we're going to recover around in September, and we'll be back at 100%. But during that time, Maxwell Evans, I believe it was, wrote a Block Club Chicago story about what we were going through, given our 18-year history of serving Chicago, and just trying to get some support from our city to keep our doors open. And so I think Big Cat's wife read this story and told him, Dan, you got to go do something about this. And so Dan, his assistant, reached out. I met with Dan. He's a fabulous guy, amazing. I was already a Barstool fan, and so I was trying not to be a fan. This guy contacted me, right? He's like super, famous on the internet all over the place. But Dan steps in and he, I tell him what's going on. And Dan had not yet won the 50-50. Dan gave of himself generously. Dan donated, I think it was like $75,000 out of his pocket to us.
Wow.
And I remember at this moment, because I remember telling him I was so grateful and thankful. And I'm a man of faith. And I said, Dan, God is really going to bless you because you blessed us without a second thought about it. And I mean, I think it was like literally a few days later or something, or maybe a week. Dan is at the game. He plays 50-50 again, and he wins.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I contact him, and I'm like, see, I told you, Dan, you willingly just gave, 75 grand out your pocket. His followers donated to our GoFundMe, so we were somewhere upwards of around $83,000, which helped keep payroll going, at 100% through September of last year. So it was a huge help because this was new to us, and people have bills to pay, children to take care of, etc. So it was really awesome to see Dan win as well and get it right back because of his heart and his generosity. And so him receiving the big check on that yesterday, it was a warm reminder to myself and to Lost Boys how that help came, and just knowing that it's people out here who do care about the work we do. And, we're just extremely grateful, and we're happy to still be here and have survived so far, and to continue to do the work that we do with children in Chicago, specifically here in South Shore.
And it really shows that if you do good, you will receive good, whether it's a week later, whether it's months or even years later. Really love how that all came to be. Big Cat, or as you mentioned, Dan Katz, donating that to your organization. Tell us, Levante, a little bit more about Lost Boys, Inc. and your mission.
Yes, absolutely, Casey. So we are what's called a sports-based youth development organization, and we belong to a very important coalition. You see on my shirt, Sport for Good Chicago, which was founded by which is run by Laureus USA, which was founded by Nelson Mandela, on the premise that President Mandela felt that sports had this power to change society. And so we saw what sport did for South Africa with rugby, and the national team there, and how it worked against apartheid and kind of trying to bring that country together, rallying around their favorite pastime. And so that concept was rolled into a larger organization and effort across the globe. And in Chicago, there are multiple cities, model cities, we call them. It started in, I don't want to get it wrong, but I believe it started in New Orleans and it expanded to Atlanta, New York, Chicago, a couple of more cities. And so all these organizations, we work together, and we're sports-based youth development organizations, SBYD. So sport is the centerpiece, but it's from that where we emanate out and we work with children in all of these other developmental areas of their lives, whether it be academics, emotional intelligence, civic engagement, cultural enrichment, given we're from a city of 77 distinct communities, and you can find anything in the world right here in Chicago. So it truly is a global city. So this has been, for us, this is a labor of love, and our specific platform is baseball and softball. It's America's favorite pastime. And I always tell people nothing has brought our country together more than baseball. We've solved so many of America's issues right on that field.
And I love that it was a baseball game that brought this donation to be. So it really all ties together, full circle moment. Talk about some of the programming that is underway this summer for youth in the area.
Yeah, so Casey, one thing about it, our capacity, we took a big hit financially, but one thing we were committed to was still serving the same number of youth. So we still serve over 200 youth through 3 different distinct programs. We had an emphasized focus on primary age youth, ages 4 to 7. That early development is really important. It's been a strain on us because, again, we've only got 40% of the staff, and we're still running programs at full capacity. So we're really worn out over here. Summer is kind of wrapping up. Our children have had an entire summer softball and baseball season, and we have a number of partners because we can't do this alone. So we partner with a number of organizations to expose them to other things and other opportunities. Like we partner with some tech groups. So we've been running a Friday pop-up drop-in tech workshop, and it's running for the next 5 Fridays, 12 to 2 at our new building. And so they're learning, they're doing 3D printing, learning AI vibe coding, and about blockchain.
Oh,
And
that's
so
so
there's
exciting.
a lot of stuff we're doing this summer, and we partnered with amazing groups like Section 108 from the White Sox, Beef Loaf, My Sox Summer, and Therese E, and bringing the kids out to Sox games and hanging out over there. And those guys are helping getting donations and hanging out at Cubs games with the bleacher bums and the ranchers. So it is really this sports community that has rallied around us. And, I want to go one time back to Dan, to Big Cat, just so people know this guy has a real big heart. It's not a one-time donation. We know Dan is, a man with means and influence, and he could have just been a one-time thing and kept moving, but he stayed in contact with me, and he was serious about it. And he's like, how do I continue to support your efforts and support the work you're doing? So we were very fortunate, thanks to our state elected officials, Cam Buckner and Curtis Tarver, we were able to secure funding to purchase a building next door to us, which was an old WIC office. And now it's going to be our new headquarters and community center and a baseball training facility. So I talked to Dan about that, and he wants to get involved and help us build out this new building. So we're really excited, especially given what we've been through the last 13 months where we were supposed to close the doors. But not only are we not closing the doors, Casey, we're doubling down. And, we have a saying here, go hard or go home, and we ain't ready to go home.
Absolutely not. And talk about the impact on the youth, what this means to all of the kids that are helped and supported by your organization. I'm sure it means everything to see a smile on their faces.
Absolutely. So this was a labor of love. I started out my living room with my own children 18 years ago, and it's grown into this big thing, right? This community institution, this anchor. So we always hear our mayor on TV talking about safe spaces for youth. Well, that's what we've done here, Casey. We've built an amazing safe space for our youth. We have a footprint along East 71st Street, and we've developed an ecosystem where we have these, multiple spaces. One of them we own, the others we lease, but children have access to all of these spaces now. So they come in this ecosystem, a place where they feel safe, where there are caring, connected adults, because that is key to what we're seeing. Not to digress and get way off, but when we look up and we see teen trends and some of these things happening, this antisocial behavior, this is the answer to it, is creating spaces where young people can come and feel heard and be creative and have something positive that they can pour their time into. And so that's what we've done here. And families have come to love us, depend on us. We are that extended family. And so everyone here carries the title of coach, whether you are an actual coach or like my financial director, Loretta Holmes, sitting behind me, who's actually a dancer. But everybody is a coach. So we're building this respect structure here and building this village for our young people in South Shore. So it warms my heart to see them. A lot of them come back and they volunteer, or they come back and work. We hire young people when they come back, the alumni, or they just come back to visit and say thank you to us when they're 25, 26, 27. They got their own families, and some of these guys and young ladies are now coaches or putting their children in programs, and they talk about what our program did for them and how it got them on a positive track in life. And so, there's nothing more rewarding. There's not a check you can give me that replaces the joy I get from that. But the reality is, like any business, we need funds to operate. And so I hope for the longevity of this organization. I hope it outlives me and it continues even when I'm not here or not around. And so it's people like Dan and, 108 and Beef Loaf and Danny Rocket, and people just keep this stuff going for us.
And we know it takes a village. Before we let you go, Levante, how can our viewers help support Lost Boys, Inc.?
Absolutely. Thank you, Casey. And viewers who want to support can go to www.lostboysinc.org, and they can donate on our website. We also have a GoFundMe page. You can donate there. Or if they want to donate goods, lovingly take that as well. Probably no more baseball equipment. We got a ton of that. Everybody donates that. We're grateful. But snacks and things like that for young people would be awesome. But we just love all of the support we're getting, and we're appreciative, and we just want to pay it forward.
I was going to ask, if it's not equipment, what are some great snacks that are helpful for kids when they're out there, especially on hot days? I assume you're looking for things like water, Gatorade, healthy snacks.
Yes. Yeah, they're of course juice boxes and Gatorade. Children love it, and fruit snacks and graham crackers and animal crackers. They go crazy for it, because one of the things is our entire program is not just outside. That's why we're not just like a local little league. They have other programming. They have about maybe 5 to 10 hours of additional programming that they do indoors, which is again around personal development. And for our teens, it's around professional development and workforce readiness and post-secondary preparation, or trade school, and even entrepreneurship. So one of the things we've done here is raise seed capital, and then young people, we put them in cohorts and they open businesses, real functional businesses. We've done about 3. They've all failed, but hey, you got to fail before you succeed. And at least they can go on in adulthood and say, hey, I actually owned a business when I was 16, 17.
Well, Levante Stewart, thank you so much for being with us. Please come back when you have an update to share on that new headquarters. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Casey. Thanks for having me, and have a great day.
You as well. Stay right here on Chicago Live. We are going to take a quick break, and we've got many more conversations planned, including one about student loans and another about long COVID, women more impacted by long-term neurological conditions than men. That's according to a new study. We're talking to an expert from Northwestern in just a bit. We'll be right back.
I would like to call.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our next guest is here to talk about student loans, something so many people in America carry for months, years after receiving their degrees. We want to bring in Aisha Conchola Banez, who is a policy director at Protect Borrowers. Hi, Aisha. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So talk a little bit about what we are seeing now with a student loan debt that so many people are carrying. I understand it is reaching new records.
That's right. So across the country, over 43 million Americans owe a drastic $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. This is debt that can carry on for the majority of a working person's life. Many folks think that student debt is a young person's issue. However, one of the fastest growing group of student loan borrowers are older Americans, folks over the age of 50, who, as a result of their student debt, are delaying retirement, are having to make very difficult choices between paying their student loans on a fixed income or keeping food on the table and keeping, taking life-saving medication. So we are definitely seeing this issue get worse. And we now have over 9.5 million Americans who are severely behind on their student loans and are now in default.
And Aisha, did you see this get worse after the pandemic? So many of those payments were paused during COVID. That has expired. Are people having a hard time catching up and getting back on track after those planned payments were essentially eliminated for over a year?
So folks, over the pandemic, as you said, were not required to make payments. And that was in response to the economic fallout of the pandemic. Many folks lost their jobs. It was kind of an emergency safety net that was provided for millions of folks. After that pandemic moratorium on payments expired, under the last administration, borrowers were given a year to kind of get back on their feet and get back on track with their student loans. But now we are finding ourselves in yet another difficult economic time, right? We are in the midst of an affordability crisis where everything is getting more expensive, from groceries to the amount of rent, medication, gas in the car. And so many of the borrowers who are struggling with student loans are the same families that are struggling to keep up with rising costs across the board. So under this current administration, we're seeing a lot of the drastic measures kind of get back to the table to try to force borrowers back into repayment. And many folks are dealing with those consequences right now.
And talk a little bit more about the SAVE repayment plan that is no longer an option. Explain to our viewers what that was and what the implications are now that it is no longer available.
So the SAVE plan was a Biden-era repayment plan that was created under the last administration, and it was the most affordable plan that was available to borrowers. It, for most folks, provided significantly affordable payments and potentially a shorter timeline to relief to see their underlying balances canceled after 10 years of or more of payments. Shortly after the plan was introduced, a group of Republican attorneys generals all challenged the repayment plan. And so the plan had been kind of going back and forth in the courts. And over the last couple of years, many of the folks who were in this plan were stuck in a forbearance, a pause in payments yet again. That, while it gave some respite to folks who really couldn't afford to make much more on their student loan bills, now that the Department of Education has decided that it's going to wind down this plan and force over 7.5 million borrowers off the plan. Many folks have now been given a 90-day notice to take action and get off this plan. But because it was so affordable, folks are going to see significantly higher monthly payments as a result of this plan no longer being an option.
And as you mentioned, everything is so expensive. Prices are going up everywhere, and they have been for so long. Learning how to factor in a higher payment when you're dealing with rent, you're dealing with your insurance, you're dealing with so many other expenses. This is going to be a learning curve for a lot of people. What do you suggest that those that are carrying student loan debt do over the coming months?
So for folks who are currently in the SAVE plan, what we are telling folks is to take a breath and do your homework. There are resources available on the federal student aid.gov website that allow you to compare what your payments might be under various repayment plans. And we tell folks to do your homework and take time to plan, because right now there's a lot of communications coming from the department and coming from student loan servicers urging people to take urgent action. While we understand that folks have a 90-day period to make a decision, folks might need that 90 days to save up to kind of give themselves a cushion for those higher payments. So we're telling folks to take their time that they need to make that educated decision on what plan they're going to shift into, and might give them some time to save for these higher payments. But I can't stress enough how drastic these payments are going to skyrocket for many people. I just spoke to a borrower today that saw her payments double as a result of losing the SAVE plan. So there are options. Folks can call their student loan servicer if they're unable to afford their bill, and ask for a temporary forbearance. That can help kind of give them a little bit of breathing room. But folks should note that interest does accrue at that time, and so that's definitely not a permanent solution. And then for folks who might be behind or in default on their student loans, it is important to take action, because when you do fall behind, it can have drastic consequences financially. Folks can take major hits to their credit score. Folks could see their Social Security benefits offset, their tax refunds offset, and even their wages garnished directly from their paycheck. So we're just stressing to folks, head over to the federal student aid.gov website to understand what your options are to rehabilitate a defaulted loan or potentially consolidate to get into good standing, or to access an IDR plan if they can't afford it, or to seek some of those temporary forbearances just to get you through the next couple of months to save up to plan ahead.
And again, for our viewers, $233.3 billion of federally backed student loans are in default. That's a new record. Average of 1 in 5 borrowers are over 9 months behind. Aissa, any final thoughts that you would like to share?
I think that what we are seeing right now is this is a broader kind of, what we're seeing amongst student loan borrowers is a broader indication of what we're seeing across the economy. Folks are falling into debt at record levels, not just student loan debt. And so I think it's important for folks to not feel shame, to make the call to your student loan servicer and reach out for help, so that you can get back on track.
Thank you so much, Aissa Conchola-Banez from Protect Borrowers. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sticking with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, and soon we will take you out to a press conference that is going to be getting underway any moment now with Mayor Brandon Johnson. It is to announce this year's matchup for the Chicago Football Classic. It is held each September. 2 HBCU colleges face off at Soldier Field for a football game. The announcement, who's playing this year, coming up shortly. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Shortly, we are going to take you out to a press conference that's unfolding right now, announcing this year's Chicago Football Classic matchup. I don't want to give it away just yet because it will be officially announced during the press conference that we are going to dip into shortly here. But you may know it. It takes place every September. It's happened since 1997. The Chicago Football Classic. It's an annual football game played at Soldier Field between historically black colleges and universities. Several officials, including Mayor Brandon Johnson, are at a press conference right now. Speaking is Alderman Lamont Robinson, though. Let's take you out to that press conference to listen in.
I have to put out a selfish plug for you all to visit not only Jai Grill in the 4th Ward, but Virtue in the 4th Ward in our Hyde Park community. This year's theme is It's a Family Affair. It's so fitting whether you're attending with your children, grandparents, church family, fraternity or sorority, neighborhood organization, or lifelong friends. This event is designed to help bring community together. We are so excited that on Saturday, September 12th, Soldier Field will welcome 2 outstanding HBCU programs, Lincoln University to take on Mississippi Valley State University. These institutions represent generations of academic excellence, leadership, athletic achievement, and cultural pride. Their presence reminds us why investing in HBCUs continues to matter. As a son of an educator, I am especially looking forward to this weekend's showcases of historically black colleges' annual career fair. This feature is so important for young people. It gives them the opportunity to visit with historically black colleges and decide their future. In closing, I want to add, so that families truly understand this commitment and community, organizers have made this year's Classic even more accessible by lowering ticket prices. This means that starting at $20, families have an affordable opportunity to experience an unforgettable day here at Soldier Field. I want to again thank Larry Huggins and the Rand family and the entire Chicago Football Classic team for their continued commitment to preserving this incredible tradition and expanding its impact throughout the city of Chicago. We appreciate the sponsors, Midway Wholesalers and Right Way Huggins Construction, whose partnerships make this event possible and demonstrates the importance of investing in our communities. As Alderman of the 4th Ward, I could not be prouder to encourage every Chicagoan to bring your family, friends, church groups, block clubs, and your community organizations to this incredible celebration. Let's fill Soldier Field with pride, tradition, and unmatched HBCU excellence. Thank you, and may God bless you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on September 12th. As someone that was an educator, I know that he understands the importance of a great education. I know that he understands the importance of historically black colleges. Our mayor, Mayor Brandon Johnson, let's give him a round of applause.
All right. Thank you, Alderman Robinson. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, boy, you guys sound as tired as the football team at the end of the game. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, got to get hype, y'all. Thank you to Alderman Robinson for your leadership, and thank you to Alders Mosley and Harris for being here this afternoon. This is, really yet a further example of how powerful our city is. This classic, of course, is one that is rich in tradition. Chicago has a strong and proud and active HBCU alumni community, and that is why we are always so excited about the annual Chicago Football Classic. The Classics not only brings people together for an exciting football game and, of course, the Battle of the Bands, but they also uplift and empower our young people. For the 29th year, the Chicago Football Classic will encourage students and parents to raise the bar of achievement and excellence through youth initiatives like high school programming and scholarships. And more importantly, it exposes our students and parents to the rich academic history and cultural opportunities that are uniquely offered at our HBCUs. We know that HBCUs consistently produce leaders in education, business, medicine, public service, and the arts. And as Alderman Robinson indicated, as a former public school teacher here in Chicago, 50% of our black educators around the country are educated at HBCUs. They consistently, pour into the next generation. But of course, what can we say about Larry Huggins, who founded this classic in 1997, and so much so that though I played a little Division III football, I was really hoping to play shortstop for the Chicago Cubs. Larry Huggins also brought the baseball classic now to Chicago. So we have football and baseball classics in the city of Chicago promoting not just athleticism, but our HBCUs. Thank you, Mr. Larry Huggins, for believing in the future of this city. So finally, I want to thank the participating HBCUs, student athletes, and alumni representing their schools, not just today, but throughout this entire week that we're going to celebrate. I look forward to welcoming this year's teams to Chicago for a great game, congratulating all of the athletes, the coaches, and supporters of this great classic and the hard work that these young people exhibit. And please know that Chicago will continue to support opportunities that inspire the next generation of leaders. We're going to celebrate the rich traditions of our HBCUs, and we're going to serve this moment as yet another opportunity to continue to build safe and affordable communities. Today, we just announced, with all the opportunities that we are providing for young people, we are well on our way to surpass the hiring of young people for summer jobs through our Chicago Youth Works initiative. Last summer, we hired more young people than any other administration, and this year we're looking forward to breaking those records. The more we invest in our young people, the better, much stronger our city becomes. And so that's why, again, naming the week of September 7th, 2026, will be officially yet again HBCU Week here in the great city of Chicago. So with that, congratulations, Mr. Huggins. I'm proud to present you with this proclamation again. So this is numbered 29, Larry Huggins, but congratulations.
Thank you.
You got it.
Tim Rand, come on up.
Hold on a second here. I'm going to keep it closed because the wind.
Come on, one more hand for our mayor. I remember when mayor was a teacher. I appreciate the love that you have for our young people.
My job was a little bit easier.
Yeah, right. I'd like to at this time bring to you from the 8th Ward, the dynamic Alderman, what's your name? Michelle Harris, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I need to thank Larry and Tim and Everett Rand for starting this event some 27 years ago, and I'm one of the few aldermen, and I can say has not missed one in 27 years. What an exciting event. I can go back in time and talk about how we loaded up Soldier Field, and everybody from the entire city was up in this place. And so today I stand here as the recipient of some of those blessings, as the Rands and Larry Huggins have decided to add more on every time they do it to empower our youth and to bring scholarships here. So it's turned into just not a blessing of seeing the sports teams and seeing them in action and the mission of what happens when you bring two great teams here, but it's become an educational event for our community, for our children. So we stand here grateful on behalf of my president of the Chicago Automatic Black Caucus, who had a loss. She lost her father. On her behalf, Stephanie Coleman, we will be praying for you. And again, on behalf of the Automatic Black Caucus of the City of Chicago, we are grateful for everything that this Chicago Football Classic does to empower our city, to bring people from all over the state of Illinois to this event. And we really want to encourage everybody, get your tickets early. Get your tickets early. We want to sell this place out. So please support us. Again, we will, as always, be buying tickets for our youth. So we appreciate what this game does for not only the communities of color, but for the city of Chicago. Thank you again, Tim and Everett Rand and Larry Huggins. Thank you for everything.
Now I'd like to bring to you the people who put this together, who did the work and made everybody else work. Won't you please welcome CFOs, the people who are about the founders of the Chicago Football Classics, Larry Huggins and Tim Rand. I was going to say more than that, but I'll let you say.
Chicago, are you ready for some football? But let me tell you why this game is the best thing that ever could have happened to the city of Chicago, and also why the city of Chicago is the best city in the United States of America. I got to tell you, 29 years ago when we started this game, we teamed up with CPS, and they convinced us that we should do a college fair. And of course, 12 years ago, we also teamed up with city colleges. And because of city colleges and CPS, we can honestly say there are more kids going to historical black colleges in the United States of America from Chicago. On an average, there's always over $1 million in on-site scholarships that are given to kids that go to that college fair. And when you add the $400,000 that the Football Classic gives to students on a yearly basis, and over that 20-some year period, that is close to $30 million. All right? So at the end of the day, it's what we do collectively as a city that makes this great. Now, one of the things that the mayor said is that Chicago also has an HBCU baseball game. And that is Chicago is the only city that does a football game and a baseball game. So just stop and think about when the baseball game starts doing an HBCU college fair, instead of $1.5 million going to students going to HBCUs, that number would be over $2 million a year. So let's give it up for our great city. And let me close by saying this, that in 29 years, myself and Tim and Everett, it has been a joy and a pleasure for us to bring this game to the city of Chicago. But as time goes on, it is important that we kind of step aside and bring in new leadership. And this year we have brought in Jahan Goldberg, who is going to be our athletic director, and we have brought in Van Wagner, who is going to produce the game for us this year. And it's important that as community leaders, business leaders, and political leaders, that we continue to support this game for one particular main reason, and that is the impact that this game have on our kids going to historical black colleges. So let's give it up for the city of Chicago and thank all our sponsors. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tim Rand.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. As my partner Larry Huggins said, it takes a city, it takes a village. We all know that. My family is here today because it's important for them to hear, buy your tickets early. Okay? I don't want you to get left out. Buy your tickets early. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of you for coming out in this weather. It's a little inclement for us. I would also be remiss if I didn't say, let's take a moment and just bow our head and think of the people who are suffering today. Floods, smoke damage, wildfires. We need to acknowledge the fact that they're there. And it's up to us to support them in any and every way we can. So one of the things we're going to do from the proceeds of the Chicago Football Classic, after our scholarship awards, my brother and I are committing $25,000 for a relief program to help them. I spent his money, so I think I'm done now.
That was officials announcing the matchup for this year's Chicago Football Classic, Lincoln University versus Mississippi Valley State. That will take place at Soldier Field on September 12th. Mayor Brandon Johnson was there along with several other local leaders to announce the annual and exciting matchup that takes place each fall. Again, the date for that is September 12th. And Mayor Brandon Johnson also proclaimed the week of September 7th to be HBCU week here in Chicago. Let's take a quick break. We've got much more coming up here on Chicago Live. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are turning our attention now to the race for Chicago's mayor. That election going to be taking place next year. And joining us now is 20th Ward Alderman Jeanette Taylor. Alderman Taylor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? So tell us a little bit about the podcast that you joined recently. You are in support of Mayor Brandon Johnson going for a second term. Now, he hasn't officially announced that he will be running for re-election, but talk a little bit about this podcast you joined and why you are backing him right now, despite him not throwing his hat in the ring just yet.
So if you think about the things that has been done, we've made a lot of progressive moves for working class folks in our city. And so while it has not been perfect, we've had the ability to do some good things. And so every mayor that gets in the seat makes rookie mistakes. In my eyes, he deserves to get another chance. I just need him to broaden the folks that he's talking to and the people that we actually work with.
Alderman Taylor, you have a iconic photo that went viral with Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the two of you sort of facing off at City Hall. Talk to me about how you think Mayor Brandon Johnson's term has gone in comparison to Mayor Lightfoot.
I think there is an unrealistic expectation for Black leadership. Let's be honest. We expect more out of Black leaders. We don't give Black leaders grace. And so it was no different with her. That was the exact same thing. And my interaction with her was based on a conversation that we were having about the city moving forward, about the mistreatment of Anjanette Young. And so I stand behind that, but I also look at it as we do have to check and have hard conversations with the folks that we elect in office. And none of it is perfect. Government is not perfect, which is why we're in a state of chaos around this country. And so we have to be willing to give folks grace as we do others.
And do you know anything that maybe we don't? Have you heard from Mayor Johnson? Is he leaning one way or the next when it comes to officially putting his hat in the ring?
That's a question for Mayor Johnson. I don't know. I just know that nobody who is currently throwing their name out there in the hat does not move me, does not, to me in my eyes, doesn't mean the city is going to move where we take care of everybody. And so it's my reason for throwing my support behind him, despite him not saying whether or not he will run. I want somebody who is actually listening to all sides. I want to see somebody who brings us together. And while that didn't happen as much as I would like to, it's a start. It hasn't been the status quo. It's been totally different. But we won't say the quiet part out loud. We hate poor people, and we're not willing to move in a way that pulls the blinders off government to make sure that everybody has access to information and services across the city.
I was going to ask, are there any candidates that are running that you might support, but it sounds like perhaps not?
No. It's not enough to be able to talk the good talk. What work have you done in the community? What are you actually doing to build our community? How are you currently in your capacity right now working with electeds across the city, not just the ones that agree with you politically, but across the city? The city of Chicago needs an organizer to help organize what's been wrong with government and what's wrong with the city. And I'm hoping that, we continue to do some of that work. Like I said, this administration has not been perfect. I've struggled with some of their decisions and some of the things they're done, but I'm willing to work with them.
And what are some of those key issues that you want to see our next mayor address and that you want to see talked about as the campaigns progress?
What I want to see is somebody who is willing to work with the state and county for us to all work together to figure out how to make life better for the people that we pay to represent. I have not seen an administration, including this last one, do a good job at working with the state and the county to make sure that we're not doing silo work. This has to stop. When we do silo work, it does not help the people we're paid to represent. And it actually keeps our constituents in chaos. It keeps them from not really knowing the supports and the things that the city can actually do for them.
As someone who has been on the city council since 2019, what else would you like to see changed perhaps within city government?
I think we kind of have what I think organizers have wanted for years is a weak mayor and a strong council. But I want that council to be able to represent what we have citywide. And sometimes the things that this city council does not reflect the people who are struggling, who need housing help, who are looking for jobs, families who have young people who need supports as well. And so I want to see a person who brings us together to say how a city looks that takes care of everybody. and that's possible.
Before we let you go, talk to me about some of the good things happening in your ward, 20th Ward right now.
So in the 20th Ward, I have a host of young people that I get every summer. And so teaching them about politics, introducing them very young to politics, making sure that my community has the ability to talk about things they want to see developed around the ward, them actually having a voice and a say so about things that get developed and use their tax dollars, just being able to pull the blinders off city hall and let people know the services that we do have available, the things that the city does do, and making sure that we do stuff different in the 20th Ward. I've really spent a lot of my time trying to teach my community how to advocate for themselves. I'm the middle person to make sure that it happens. And so I'm just excited that I have a community that shows up and that voices how they feel, whether it's we agree or it's indifferent.
And what has been the response from some of those youth that you mentioned are interested in politics? Are you seeing a large number of young people wanting to go into politics? Or is it
if you look at what's happened over the last 3 years, the number of summer interns that we get, or young people who are able to get into a summer job, they want to come to the aldermanic office. They want to know what an alderman does. They want access to their city hall, and they want to say so in decisions we make that concern their lives. This whole thing about the teen trends, they want to talk about accountability. They don't think it's right that young people tear up other people's property, or they're doing things that they know they're not supposed to do. But they also don't want to be punitive to those families. And so we're having a larger conversation around the city with different youth around what should be the accountability when people do what they're not supposed to do.
And how can teens and young people get involved if they do want to learn more in your ward about, taking that next step one day and perhaps pursuing becoming an elected official themselves?
It's as easy as coming to my office every Thursday. I have constituent day from 1 to 7:30. People can come to meet with me without an appointment and have those conversations. This is the people's office. I'm just the representative for now that's in the seat. And so they just got to come talk to me. That Thursday, you don't have to make an appointment. You just show up. A lot of times people are waiting, but it is worth the wait to have that conversation. And just letting them know that we're everyday people. We live normal lives like they do. And we want to see the community grow just as much as they do.
And will you be running when your term is up next May?
Absolutely, I will. This will be my last term, though. I promised the community I would do 3 terms. And so this next election is my last term. I don't want to become complacent, and I want to be able to turn it over to a younger generation sooner than later. I think a lot of times we don't have a succession plan. I do.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Alderman Taylor. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here on Chicago Live.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Real quick, we want to switch gears and take you out to a press conference that's unfolding in California following a hearing for rapper David, who is accused of murdering Celeste Rivas. Let's listen in.
Probable cause, not beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a judge that is doing this determination, not a jury at this point, and that there will subsequently be a trial when the judge holds David to answer on these 3 felony charges. When this preliminary hearing is over, I will come back to address you, and at that point, I will take questions. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we were just listening in following a highly anticipated preliminary hearing in the murder case against singer David, who is accused of murdering Celeste Rivas. As you heard, more questions will be taken later on. We will bring you back to that if we get any updates. Let's take a quick break. Coming up, we have our very own Brett Bagansky, who will be joining us to chat about the story that he is working on for later today. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Whenever we get the chance, we love to check in with the reporters who are out in the field working to bring you the latest stories happening around the city and suburbs. And today we get to catch up with Brett Bagansky, who is going to be sharing with us what happened to a local street performer that many people in Chicago who frequent the downtown area may know.
And this is a good intro that you just said, Casey, because chances are if you walk through the Loop or you end up going by, let's say, the Wrigley Building, you're going to see this one guy who has the voice of an angel. His name is Andrew David. He has been performing throughout the Loop and throughout the city of Chicago for about the last 10 years. And he's had kind of a tough summer. He's been featured here before because in the middle of his performances, while he's been right outside Macy's, some have stolen his tip jar with all of his money in that he goes to try to make ends meet. So this happened to him twice within the last 2 months. And then on Friday, he was supposed to have a performance and ended up getting canceled. So he ended up doing a street performance outside the Wrigley Building, and mid-song ends up getting arrested and cited for a noise complaint. And when I was asking him, do you know who called a noise complaint? He said it was the people running the Wrigley Building. We've reached out to them to get their side of the story. We're still trying to find out what they want to say about this because we haven't heard back from them. Now, Andrew David has told me that he has been given citations and arrested multiple times, but only outside the Wrigley Building. It's never happened to him anywhere else outside the city. And every time he goes to court to end up fighting this, the judge ends up throwing out the citation for lack of evidence here. So it gets a little subjective when it comes to what's considered a noise complaint here. But when he got arrested and cited for a noise violation on Friday, this was a little after 9 o'clock. There are street performer rules where you can't perform after a certain time. It's sort of like, like a curfew violation sort of thing. That's why you don't have a lot of performances late at night, because it goes against kind of the noise ordinance. But it was before 10 o'clock that he ends up getting cited for this noise complaint. And to make matters worse, Chicago police took his equipment. This is the stuff that he uses when he goes out and performs 5 days, 6 days a week on the streets of Chicago. So he told me he had to go and buy a lot of this stuff back through credit. It's money he doesn't have, and he just wants the stuff back. He's got to fight this in court again. He has a court date coming up in September, but he's just like, why am I being targeted from this?
Now, when you met him out, did he show you where he was performing? Was he on Wrigley's property? Was he on the sidewalk? Talk to me about, where exactly, so we can get a visual.
Yeah, he was right in front of the Wrigley Building, but he's on the public sidewalk, which you are perfectly okay to be there. He didn't get cited for trespassing. It wasn't like, hey, you're on private property. He was on a public walkway where you see many of the street performers on. And now they have rules. They have to have a license. They pay money, and because they're taking they get your donations on the street and everything. But he is a licensed street performer here in the city of Chicago. He was on a public right of way, and mid-song, as he's singing a song from The Lion King, all of a sudden Chicago police officers say, hey, you have to move. You're being too loud. And then as he's about to move, and they said, oh, by the way, you're being arrested for a noise citation.
And Brett was telling me beforehand off camera that he kept singing. He was continuing his performance even as the cops were coming in.
Well, because he had been, a police officer had come to him and said, hey, you need to turn it down. So he said, okay, kept turning it down. It came to him 2 more times, you need to turn it down. He kept turning it down because he's just like, I've never had this issue up until I come here. And then as he's singing, they said, you need to move, you're being too loud, okay. And then they said, oh, by the way, you're being arrested. And then before he knew it, and he records all of his performances, by the way. It's on his social media, and before you know it, you see 6 police officers.
So it's on camera.
All of it is on camera.
And you're going to include it, I assume.
We will be including it in our story today, but it's 6 officers surrounding him, and there's a lot of questions about noise and fairness and whether or not this is a good use of resources here, because if you meet a guy like Andrew, he is a very sweet man. This is a guy who brings a lot of joy and smiles to people. Again, when you see him, especially if you go right by Macy's, you're going to see this guy who has the voice of an angel, and he's just had a very, very rough summer. And when you think about some of the noise issues, you see people with big boom boxes, whether it's through their cars or motorcycles, on the motorized scooters, the motorized bicycles, and you think, okay, that's drawing a lot of attention. And his point is really like, all right, so you're not going to write those guys up, but you're going to cite me for something that I have a license to do. He just feels like it was an injustice.
And this is his income. This is what he relies on to make a living.
This is part of his, he works multiple jobs, but this is part of his how he supplements his income. And he's been doing this for the last 10 years, and he's been trying to make it as a professional singer. And he has performances all across the Chicago area, but this is something that he loves to do. And also because he got arrested and he had to figure out how to get all of his equipment back, it took away from him volunteering on Saturdays. He likes to volunteer at the hospitals on Saturdays, so he's just like, I want to do this for people, but I also want to give back. And he was traumatized by this.
And did you find out when will he get that equipment? I know you said he already spent money on more equipment, money that he doesn't have, so it's on credit, but when and where is his equipment being held?
So hopefully when he has a court date on September 3rd, he'll have a little more clarity on this, but he's just like...
So he's got to wait.
He had to go, and they said,
month.
you have to file he told me I had to file a motion within the court to try to get my stuff back, and he said, well, why are you holding my stuff? And they said, well, it's being held as evidence. He's like, I don't know what kind of evidence you want. This is what I use for my performances. He just feels like the whole thing was just blown just way out of proportion.
Well, we look forward to hearing from him later today. 4 and 5?
4 or 5 o'clock, and then some version at 9 o'clock. Things are always changing around here.
They're always changing.
You just never know. That's why watch this space. Chicago Live, Casey Crow. Just watch it all the time. This is just where you need to go.
Well, real quick, since we have you here, I want to hear a little bit more about yesterday. Your story yesterday. Brett got a first look, first crew to have a tour, if you'll call it a tour, of the grounds of a potential new site for the Bears Stadium in the South Shore. Talk to me about that. You were on a four-wheeler.
So this was one of those things from State Representative Curtis Tarver. And he has an idea because the Chicago Bears are always top of mind, where they're going to be having their football stadium after Soldier Field if they decide to leave once the lease is up in 2033. And even though the Chicago Bears have said that their focus is on a stadium development project with a site to be selected in Hammond, they still haven't committed to anywhere. So Representative Tarver's thinking, all right, if they haven't decided and haven't committed on a site yet, whether it's Chicago, Arlington Heights, Hammond, Indiana, or somewhere else, maybe McCook, who knows about that? He said, what if we keep the Chicago Bears not only in Illinois, but in the city of Chicago? There is a site where they're building the Quantum, the microchips park. It's under construction right now. There's still about 300 acres of undeveloped land on this very site. It's the former U.S. Steel site, which is at 85th and DuSable Lakeshore Drive. He's thinking, well, what if we were to take this land that's right on the lake? You have a beautiful view of the city with the skyline. It was a little smoky yesterday, so we didn't quite get the
that
skyline.
Air quality.
But we do have some video of what this site looks like here. And he's like, if the Bears haven't committed yet, what about this site? And we want to give the Bears every opportunity to not only stay in Illinois, but stay in the city of Chicago. Because with Representative Tarver's thinking is that, look, the Bears don't want to stay at Soldier Field. They want to have more control over the revenue and who plays at their stadium. He's thinking, well, what if you build something that's 70 to 80,000 seats indoor right here on the south side at the former U.S. Steel site that had been abandoned since 1992.
And just when we think we've explored every site there is in Chicago, in Illinois, more keep popping up. What else did he share in terms of, has he had conversations with the Bears, or is this super early?
Well, this is something that he's been pitching for a while, but no other Chicago news station has been on the site. So we were the first to be on the site here, but it's been abandoned. There's a lot of vegetation grown over. It's a shell of its former self from the former U.S. Steel site here. So there's a lot of great land over there, and it borders a park, and then of course you got the Quantum site just to the south of there, and then to the north they're building another hospital there. So this is sort of like the resurgence of South Chicago, the south side of Chicago, and they're thinking, look, when U.S. Steel left in 1992, there was a big void in this area. So why not have something where there's already a lot of momentum building right there, have a new stadium right there. And to answer your question, Casey, I asked him that question about the Chicago Bears. He said, I'm going to let Representative Cam Buckner be the point person because he seems to be the point person over the summer about trying to keep the Chicago Bears in some kind of legislation to keep the Bears in Illinois, to keep going here. What that is right now, we don't know. But it's funny, he and others have also said that they wanted the Chicago Bears to take a more active role when it comes to, all right, you want property tax certainty and you want a little help with the infrastructure from the state. Okay, that's cool, but can you be more specific on this? In fact, I think Representative Cam Buckner, when he was on The Score a few weeks ago, said that's like saying, okay, we want a quarterback. You expect Caleb Williams, but you get Cade McNown. It doesn't work. You have to be more specific on what you're asked for. But he thinks this is a real opportunity for the Chicago Bears to say, have you considered this property? We can make this happen. I think there needs to be some, he said, now it's not a blank check, but I think if they go and commit and have some good private investment, he said, I think from a state's perspective, we can get everybody on board with this.
Brett, thank you so much for joining us to talk about that. And that quantum site, that's going to be huge too. That is going to produce thousands of jobs there in the South Shore when it's done. Massive site where they'll be making, was it microchips?
Microchips, yeah. And the state has already kicked in, committed hundreds of millions of dollars to develop that area. Cook County has also put in tens of millions of dollars. And then even the city of Chicago has put in, I think, around $5 million. So Representative Tarver was saying, look, the city of Chicago put in $5 million for this site because if they want to be serious about potentially getting the Chicago Bears to come to South Chicago, he said they need to put more skin in the game.
All right, Brett, thank you so much. Tune in for Brett's reports later today on the news at 4 and 5. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to talk about something that many people have been experiencing, perhaps not talked about so much, but long COVID. We want to bring in the chief of neuroinfectious disease and global neurology from Northwestern Medicine, Dr. Igor Koralnik. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So please tell us about a new study that has revealed that women are far more likely than men to experience neurological side effects and symptoms of long COVID compared to men. Tell us about this study. We understand it is fairly new in terms of the results being released.
Certainly. So long COVID is defined by persisting symptoms lasting more than 3 months after an episode of COVID-19, and they may affect one or more organ system. We have seen more than 3,300 patients in the neuro-COVID clinic here at Northwestern Medicine since the beginning of the pandemic. And since the very beginning, we had already observed that women are more frequent patients in the clinic. 2/3 of the population are women. The current study was to find out whether women are also more severely affected by men. And we looked retrospectively at the first consecutive 2,329 patients seen in the clinic, and we compared men and women. And we saw that women had more commonly had neurologic manifestation of long COVID, such as brain fog, headache, dizziness, numbness and tingling, pain, for example, as well as intense fatigue. And we asked patients to answer questionnaires about the quality of life. And we found out that women are also more severely affected in their quality of life in the domain of fatigue. All the patients who came in person could also have a cognitive test, objective cognitive test, and we saw that the women are also more severely affected in a task of attention than men. So altogether, we could find out that women are more severely affected by neurologic manifestation of long COVID, not only more frequently affected.
And tell us what qualified these individuals for this study. Did it just need to be that they had COVID once, or is it COVID multiple times, and during what time frame?
Certainly. So we have an open clinic since May 2020 and at Northwestern Medicine, and we studied all the patients who came to the clinic retrospectively. So these are the first consecutive patients who came to the clinic, 2,229 patients. There was no need for to qualify for the study. We looked at the entire population of patients. And you're right that some patients develop long COVID after the first episode of COVID-19. Some patients develop long COVID after the second, third, or fourth episode of COVID-19. And people actually have published that the higher the number episode of COVID-19 somebody may have, the higher the risk of developing long COVID. And why is it so? We and others think that long COVID is a new autoimmune disease, and we have found autoantibodies or autoreactive T cells, for example, in our patient population. And it may be that it's like a river that goes up, and all of a sudden floods over the dam. And you may need to have iterative episodes of COVID-19 in order for these autoantibodies to finally flood the system and cause symptoms in some of our patients.
And Dr. Koralnik, please explain and just confirm, is it accurate that women are more likely to develop autoimmune diseases than men, and the science behind that?
Certainly. So women are more prone to autoimmune disease than men. They have more higher risk of developing multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus, for example, because women have 2 chromosomes and men have one X and Y, one Y chromosome. And women tend to have better, are better able to fight against active infections. So their mortality rate in acute COVID-19 is lower than men. But the flip side of the coin is that they're also more prone to autoimmune disease and long COVID is certainly one of them.
Wow. And what did you find in the men that were part of this study? Did some of them have these neurological symptoms, or was there an absence altogether?
So men included in the study also have neurologic symptoms because they come to the clinic and they have been determined by a 1 hour evaluation that they actually have long COVID. But we found only that 2/3 of the patient population are men, which we knew since the beginning. But in this study, we showed that men are less severely affected than women, and actually none of the numerous neurologic symptoms were more frequent in men. When there was a difference, they were all times more frequent in women. And so we want providers to be aware of this for timely diagnosis and also targeted intervention in this patient population, especially women who have frequently and unfortunately be affected by gender bias in medicine.
And we understand that this is impacting, for some women, everyday tasks. Talk a little bit about some signs of long COVID that perhaps people are walking around not realizing that this is the reason I'm experiencing brain fog, or this must be why I'm experiencing that numbness and tingling. What should people look out for, and how is it impacting day-to-day tasks?
Certainly, and as you said, brain fog is the most frequent neurologic manifestation of long COVID, affecting about 70-75% of our patient population. Headache as well. Some patients never had a headache in their life, and now they have this dull, constant headache that's really affecting their quality of life. Sometimes they had minor episodes of migraines here and there, and now they have intractable headache after long COVID. And as you said, they can also have muscle pain, numbness and tingling, problem with smell and taste, among others. And so they can certainly need required help to our neuro-COVID clinic. We also have a comprehensive COVID center since September 2020 at Northwestern Medicine, with other clinics such as pulmonology, cardiology, and other medical specialties. We wanted to have the best access to the clinic to all patients, and they don't need physician referral to come to see us. They can just call our numbers of the comprehensive COVID center. They will be triaged and directed in the appropriate clinic, and we will be happy to help them. And so how can we help them? So for example, long COVID brain fog is best treated by cognitive rehabilitation, which is like physical therapy for the brain. It is done at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab across the street, and we have certainly referred more than 1,000 patients probably since the beginning of the pandemic. When people have fatigue, we want to rule out that they have other reasons to be fatigued. For example, ruling out obstructive sleep apnea, which is a very frequent condition, which we do by doing a simple home sleep test, for example. And we can treat patients with a mild stimulant also, if this is to help them get over the hump. If they have a headache, there are numerous headache medications to help them. We also have a specialized headache clinic here at Northwestern Medicine. Unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all treatment, no magic pill for long COVID, but each patient is different, and this is why we perform personalized medicine for the care of these patients.
And for those who have sought treatment, have you seen success? And is there an end to the road for people who are experiencing this? Is there hope that you'll be back to normal, or is this something that studies are showing could linger for even years to come?
Another excellent question. So the first question that patients ask us is, when am I going to get better? And the next question that we ask them is, how much percent recovered you feel you are today compared to before COVID? If you say 100%, you're back to normal. And they say, 40% recovered, 10%, 20%, and so on. And so this is very important for us because they may have 10 neurologic symptoms, but the most important for us is how much recovered they feel they are despite all those symptoms. And so we are there to help them on their way to recovery. We have created a unique app, a symptom tracker app, which is called the Neuro-COVID Recovery Care Companion at Northwestern Medicine, which is actually completely integrated with NM chart that patients can use on their smartphone. And when they do that, we can see the result on the back end on the computer, and they can track their road to recovery. We have done a study of this in a population of patients that we've studied over time, and we see that some patients tend to improve, which we call the improvers, and some patients, unfortunately, tend to remain stable or even worsen over time. And so every patient is on their own track. We can't determine immediately when we see the patient if they're going to improve or not. The majority will get better over time, but this is a study that we have ongoing to try to find out the root cause of long COVID, identify biological marker of disease activity in our patient population, together with the use of this app.
Wow, it's all so fascinating. Before we let you go, you mentioned earlier gender bias in medicine. Explain to our viewers just a little bit more about that and some of the systemic issues when it comes to treatment.
Certainly. When patients go to the doctor with those symptoms of long COVID, they look good on the outside. The blood work is normal. When they get an MRI or a CAT scan of the brain, it's normal as well. And oftentimes, this is what our patients tell us. They are told, well, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. You should do relaxation and yoga. You're probably stressed. It's going to get better. And this really adds insult to injury on these patient's symptoms. And we see that the majority of the populations in the clinic are in their youth or middle age. Female over 40s is the major population of the clinic, and they tell us that they have been in such situation before when they have other symptoms, and these tend to be less seriously considered by their providers in certain instances. And so this is unfortunate, and we want to inform providers of the importance of timely diagnosis and also targeted intervention in this patient population, especially in women.
Dr. Koralnik, thank you so much for joining us and for all of your insight on this topic.
Thank you very much for inviting me in your show.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. That was the Chief of Neuroinfectious Disease and Global Neurology at Northwestern Medicine, Dr. Igor Koralnik. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. Coming up, we'll have a check of the forecast. Chicago Live. The time is now 2:49, and joining us is Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls to give us a look at the forecast. Air quality is better today.
It's better, and you can see it just by looking outside. You know, sky cams, we can finally see all the buildings, which is wonderful.
Blue skies, clouds, we can differentiate.
Yes, it is so nice today. We still have a touch of humidity out there. Temperatures are sitting in the 80s, so we have that nice summertime warmth. But Casey, look at that shot.
Gorgeous.
We can see the clouds. So every Thursday, a new one comes out reflecting the conditions for the past week. As of right now, things look pretty good. We're not considered to be abnormally dry, with the exception being in portions of McHenry County, and that's really about it. But I think things are likely going to get a little bit worse here in the next couple of days on the drought front here, because we have nothing but sunshine. 7-day forecast tomorrow, 75 degrees, lots of sunshine, and the haze, I don't think that's really going to be a problem. So as of right now, it does not appear like wildfire smoke is really going to be much of a concern through the remainder of this week. Even as we go into this upcoming weekend, we have the heat that's going to be rushing back, upper 80s, low 90s expected. But again, as of now, I don't think that wildfire smoke is going to be a major concern.
Okay, good. And we just checked here the IQ Air website, which shows Chicago is ranked 44 for worst air quality in the world right now. This is a great resource if viewers at home want a listing of the air quality around the world. 19 though, Denver is at 19 and Detroit is at 25. So just the way things have been moving with the Canadian wildfire smoke. It's
right. And so a good example is Detroit. They're kind of like a day behind us. So we had our winds shifting to be out of the south and the west. It's pushing that smoke over toward the Michigan area and out of our region. So hopefully places like Michigan, Detroit, you know, they're going to feel some relief here in the next few days as well.
Okay, good. And we've got so many fun summer events coming up this weekend and the next few weekends. So it sounds like this will be a good weekend, this upcoming weekend, for any outdoor activities, those summer series, concerts.
Staying dry, but it's going to be hot. So if you do have any concerts or anything that you have planned to be outside, it's going to be very warm, mid to upper 80s expected on Saturday. Sunday, I think we're in the 90s. Humidity is going to be around as well. So that could push those heat index values closer to the mid to upper 90s. Be prepared for that on Sunday. But otherwise, just a little ups and downs here the next week, week and a half. Notice we have 70s on tap again by Tuesday of next week. But yes, this weekend staying dry, so any concerts, festivals, all things looking good.
Stay hydrated. Yes. Instead of focusing on the air quality, now we need to focus on drinking those fluids and
getting back to the beach.
And getting back to the beach. Although the beach was still very busy during the air quality event. People were still out running, which doctors do not recommend when the air quality is that bad, but people were still doing it.
Yeah. Well, you can't keep us down in the summertime. We have a few short months, right?
Absolutely. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being with us here on Chicago Live. Emily will have more about the weather coming up on the news at 4. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are talking banned books coming up shortly after the break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to take you out to 43rd Ward Alderman Timmy Knutson, who is speaking following the killing of a 30-year-old man in Lincoln Park over the weekend. He is pushing for the bar near where this happened to be closed. Let's listen in.
And this is the heartbreaking piece of it. In all of these meetings we've had around this business, we could almost predict that this would happen again. And it happened again after last summer, and it happened again after June, and here we are in July. And my heart breaks for the families of those who were shot. 30-year-old, not much of an age difference than me, died because of this incident. That is heartbreaking on such a huge level. That shows the problem our city has with firearms, being out in the open and coming into business establishments. So I very much stand against that. And at the same time, I support businesses that make sure that they're not allowing those customers with firearms in. Great. Thank you, everyone, for covering this. Thank you. I know it's been a busy week with many other things, so we appreciate it. Yep. We'll keep everyone updated on more things that come up, too.
That was 43rd Ward Alderman Timmy Knudsen, who was speaking following the death of a 30-year-old in Lincoln Park. It happened on Sunday. It was a shooting at Lincoln and Webster just before midnight. Police saying that a fight broke out prior to those shots being fired. Alderman Knudsen says he is pushing for further restrictions on late-night bars on that stretch of Lincoln Avenue, including for the bar where this unfolded in front of to be shut down. We will bring you a little bit more on that later today. We do have several more guests coming up for you, including a conversation about banned books and an event that will be taking place in Chicago next week that you can get involved in. Let's take a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is just about 3:02 p.m. We just heard from Alderman Timmy Knudsen about a shooting in Lincoln Park over the weekend and his push to close bars earlier so that they are not open as late. He believes that that played a role as a fight broke out prior to that shooting. We want to switch gears now and have a discussion about banned books. Penguin Random House is hosting a banned book meeting here in Chicago this Thursday on July 23rd. We want to bring in an advocate against banned books, Simone Siu, who is joining us now. Thank you so much for being with us, Simone.
Happy to be here.
So tell us first a little bit about how you became a Penguin Random House banned story advocate.
Absolutely. I have been a reader since I was little. I am a writer and literary influencer, and I've been passionate about fighting book bans for a long time. I remember even when I was in middle school, there was this moment where parents stood outside the school handing out flyers trying to get a banned book gone from the library, and that moment stuck out to me for a long time. And here I am now working with Penguin Random House. They named me as a story advocate, and together we are fighting book bans across the country.
And tell us a little bit about how Chicagoans can get involved this Thursday. The event is taking place at the Hoxton. What will this banned book meeting entail?
Absolutely. So yes, this Thursday, July 23rd at 7 p.m., I'm hosting a banned books club where we are asking readers to either read The Awakening by Kate Chopin or Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I am partnering with Ladies Who Lit, a Chicago-based culture club rooted in literary fiction by women. They are a fantastic organization that treats reading as a cultural practice, pairing monthly book selections with cultural events throughout the city, really helping books come alive. All are welcome at this event on Thursday. It is a free event, but you must sign up ahead of time. And we are going to talk about the current state of book bans, what you can do to get involved, and of course, there will be a book club discussion.
And could you walk us through those couple of options, the books that you're encouraging people read prior to the discussion? Give us just a little bit of a synopsis on each book.
Absolutely. So we are reading two books, like I mentioned, The Awakening by Kate Chopin. This is a book that came out in 1899 and has been controversial since the very beginning. It's a story about a young wife and mother who slowly starts to realize she is more than just those two identities. She starts to act outside the norm, and it's a hallmark work of feminist literature. This has scared people for a long time, and it was controversial in 1899, and in the 2010s, it was one of the most banned books. We are pairing that with Last Night at the Telegraph Club, a book by Melinda Lowe that came out in 2021. And this is actually the fourth highest banned book last year. It's a beautiful young adult novel about a young teenage Chinese girl in 1950s San Francisco. It's a coming of age story where she stumbles upon a lesbian bar, and it opens up her entire world as she starts to figure out her sexuality. We've paired these two essential texts together to show that books have been challenged for a very long time. And while book bans are on the rise now, in the last school year, over 6,000 books were banned. We want to get these books into readers' hands so they can really engage with the story, so they can understand why it's being targeted, and so they can learn how they can talk about it and fight back.
Absolutely. And let's talk more about that number, that 6,000 book number that were banned. Tell me a little bit about, just the numbers and the data. That seems like a really steep number. Are these books by well-known authors? Are these books by smaller, just getting started, authors? Tell us a little bit about kind of the range that we're seeing being banned.
Absolutely. So if you think that's a high number, it definitely is. Book bans have been on the rise in the past couple years, and these bans target books with a particular theme. They typically target stories about race, history, stories with characters of LGBTQ backgrounds, or stories about sexual experiences. And like you said, that number is growing. And if you're wondering what kind of books are being banned, a lot of people find the kinds of books to be pretty shocking. It includes books like The Diary of Anne Frank, The Kite Runner, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, books by Toni Morrison, books by John Green, beloved books that have been read in schools for a very long time. It targets really popular books. It also targets newer books, debut authors, as long as it falls within those themes that I mentioned.
And to explain to the viewers, tell us about, when a book is banned, does that mean it's pulled from libraries, from schools? Is it no longer accessible to be purchased? Or is it more in academic settings is where it's been pulled?
That's a great question. So when people hear book bans, they hear these numbers, but they wonder about if the book is banned, how can they still buy that book at a bookstore? So when we talk about book bans, we are talking about schools and libraries in particular. Organizations like PEN America and the ALA, they particularly track book bans when it comes to school districts and public libraries. And there's a difference between a book ban and a book challenge. So a book challenge is when organizations or parents are flagging a book and saying, we want this book to be banned. Often when the book is challenged, those books are put aside and not allowed to be accessed by students or parents. So in a way, they act as a book ban. But when those challenges are accepted, that's when it's moved to the official term book ban, and that's when you are no longer allowed to read it. And again, these are primarily schools and libraries.
And this Thursday, 2-hour discussion. Walk me through how you hope that the evening unfolds.
Absolutely, yes. So we are going to begin the conversation about where book bans are in our country. This might be interesting to hear, but in 2023, Illinois actually signed into law the banning of book bans, making Illinois a leader when it comes to the freedom of read. So we want to help everyone understand where book bans are now and what we can do because the fight actually isn't over. Just yesterday, a national book ban bill was introduced into the Senate. And at our event, we're going to talk about how we can turn fear, if you hear that number or that bill and it scares you, we want to talk about how you can turn that fear into action. And then we are going to have a book club discussion where we talk about those 2 books in particular. And then we're going to end the night with action about ways you can get involved on a very local level, the way you can contact officials, and how if you go to the Penguin Random House website, they have a banned books resource where you can learn about all the different ways you can get involved.
And you mentioned that you are partnering with Ladies Who Lit. Talk a little bit, just as much as you can share, about that group and the mission behind it.
Absolutely. So this is a group that is based in Chicago, all about pairing women writers with cultural experiences. So what that means is every month there's a meeting, and if the book has a specific theme, they pair it with that. So book club meetings have been held at art galleries, at the ballet, at different museums. What they aim to do is really show that reading is a cultural practice, and then when you pair it with in real life events, you can have a deeper understanding of these books.
Thank you so much, Simone. Really appreciate it. And I do want to mention Banned Books Week is October 4th through 10th this year. Anything planned for that week, Simone, or anything that you want viewers to look out for?
Absolutely. That is a very exciting week where a lot of advocates, passionate people about this topic get together and talk about the ways we can fight book bans. Penguin Random House in particular is hosting a Save Our Stories supper being held at the New York Public Library this year, where again, it's all about making sure everyone has the freedom to read.
And how can viewers sign up for Thursday's discussion if they would like to attend or learn more information?
Absolutely. You can go to my social media. My name is Simone Sue. My handle is at Balloon Breath. You can go on TikTok or Instagram. And if you click the link in my bio, you can sign up for the event.
All right. Thank you so much, Simone Sue, a Penguin Random House story advocate. We appreciate you being with us to chat about this important topic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Again, that Banned Book Club meeting is taking place this Thursday at the Hoxton in the West Loop from 7 to 9 p.m. She mentioned there how you can sign up and get involved. Head to her social media at Balloon Breath, and there's more details there. RSVPs are encouraged, but it is a free event. Stay with us. We've got a few more guests still to come here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 3:14. We want to take you out to a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing taking place on Capitol Hill. Right now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is being questioned. Let's listen in.
Office, but can you commit to restoring staffing at Bartlett and to keeping the facilities there open now that you've seen the critical nature of that research?
Why don't I follow up with you? I have not gotten a report from their visit, so I would like to do that first. But obviously, you and I have been in a continuing conversation about that. The good news, there's no doubt our timber industry is in distress and has been for a long time. The fact that we import 90% or something from other countries of our lumber needs is crazy. We're changing that. But the good news, we had more board feet sold last year than any time in 30 years. This year, we're going to exceed that target again. So we're making the right moves on this, but there's no doubt that research is important to that, as we've discussed. And I'll follow up with our team, and then we'll reconnect.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As you pointed out, research is critical to ensuring that the timber economy continues to be successful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here today. General, in the war between Russia and Ukraine, who do we want to win?
Sir, I want Ukraine to win.
Is Russia America's friend?
I'm sorry, sir, I couldn't quite hear your question.
Is Russia America's friend?
I think that depends on your definition of friend. I think it's a complicated relationship. But no, I don't think they're our friends.
Thank you. If we could cut off Russia's cash flow, which depends substantially on its sale of oil, would that help Ukraine win?
So I think militarily, anytime you can restrict resources and cash flows against an adversary,
General, I
that's a
have
good
so
thing.
much respect for you.
Yes, sir.
But I have so little time.
Yes, sir. I'll try to
Just
be briefer.
Give me succinct answers.
Yes, sir. It would assist a.
Would help, wouldn't
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. If we could stop people, entities, and countries from buying Russia's oil, that would help cut off its cash flow, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
We have a bill to do that, as I'm sure you're aware. We have the votes today to pass it overwhelmingly. I also have enormous respect and admiration for our majority leader, Senator Thune. But I hope everybody on this panel will today contact Senator Thune and ask him to bring that bill to the floor. We should vote on it at a minimum of next week. Some of my colleagues, General, want America to just stop in Iran. In the blockade, bring all of our warriors home. What would be the consequences of that, in your estimation?
Sir, I think termination criteria is always a political decision. However, I assess that Iran will continue to be a challenge moving forward. So we have to be thoughtful
Will
about
they put tolls on the strait?
I don't know, sir. That's a decision that's a hypothetical and will depend on what happens
It's not
in the future.
hypothetical. We've got a blockade to stop them.
We do, sir. That's
General,
putting
I want you
economic
to look
pressure
me in
on
the eye.
Iran.
I'm not asking you for, I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I know your advice to the president is private, but this is serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke. Now, what happens if we come home and end the blockade to the world?
Sir, Iran has the potential to continue to be a threat, and we will need to prepare military
Will they
options to
toll
do
the
that.
strait?
Sir, that's a hypothetical question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, it's not hypothetical. We come home. It's not going to be hypothetical. You know that, General, and I do too. And I appreciate your discretion, but we're down to it. We need some hard answers and some straight talk. What'll happen, Pete?
Senator, I would agree with the chairman, but the likely outcome is they would try to impose their will on the waterways in ways that the world would not like. Call it a toll, call it a fee, call it an exchange, call it control. They would do something that they would try to hold it at issue. Yes, sir.
Would they try to commence development again of a nuclear warhead?
Part of the reason President Trump had to have the courage to do what he did after Midnight Hammer is that they didn't give up their ambitions even though their nuclear sites had been obliterated. So this is a regime hell-bent on nuclear ambitions, and
Guys,
President Trump's been willing to go after
answers. We need straight answers. Do we have the ability to destroy whatever is underneath Pickaxe Mountain?
Senator, a lot of our capabilities are classified, but if anybody in the world can reach anything on God's green earth, it's the United States military, the most powerful military in the world. It's all about options and trade-offs.
All right. I'm going to take a little extra time because others got it, Madam Chair. I won't abuse it. Secretary, are shrimpers farmers?
Absolutely, yes. There are farmers of the sea.
Are oyster harvesters farmers?
Yes. In this USDA,
They
yes.
having to compete with other countries who grow oysters and shrimp in a ditch and shoot them full of antibiotics?
100% yes.
And if you eat too much of that foreign shrimp and oysters, you'll grow an extra ear, won't you?
I'm not sure about that, but I know it is not good. And I also know we import 90% of our shrimp.
Why aren't we inspecting the shrimp and the oysters from abroad?
Well, it goes much larger than that. Why are we importing so much from abroad, which goes to the president's trade agenda?
I'm in big trouble.
Yes, you are.
Guys, look, we need straight answers now. We're down to it.
Senator Merkley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Secretary Rollins. I appreciate your partnership on addressing several issues in Oregon, and I sent you information about a couple others, and you responded. Appreciate it. We'll follow up on the research service. We'll follow up on the concern about in-kind contributions serving as a match. But I particularly need your help on the fire funding. And I know you've indicated how important that is. Where we stand now is that the Senate seems hamstrung, that they're seeking to have OMB give them a number on that. Various sources say the number is probably about $5 billion. I don't really care if it's 4.5 or 5 or 5.5. The point is that folks here, senators, are asking for a number from OMB in order to go forward. And when we're looking at the fires right now, and my home state's the epicenter of the highest risk in the country. So can we get your help to get that number and move this process?
Yes, absolutely. It is of paramount importance, especially in the middle of fire season right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Chairman Kane, I think there was a sense that the President expressed at the start of the war that the U.S. military power was overwhelming and would likely produce unconditional surrender quickly by Iran. And that obviously hasn't happened. Was it your opinion as well? Did you feel like our military force could produce an unconditional surrender in quick order?
Sir, I won't, with due respect, I won't share my private advice to the President. What I will assure you and the American people is I always speak truth to power and offer an accurate assessment of what my assessment is of both our readiness, the plans and activities that might be undertaken, the associated risks, and the secondary and tertiary considerations that go with those opinions or options.
Thank you. So you feel like the various risks that the Iran could possibly close the strait, even despite the destruction of their navy, that the possibility of assassinating their political leaders and their military leaders could produce a strengthened hardline and weaken the reformers, that Iran would have the ability to sustain its ability to attack sites throughout the Middle East, that the initial requirements of the war could surely deplete our basically high-end standoff munitions, that this could affect our relations with our allies. All those were factors well considered in this decision to go to war.
Sir, as I said, I won't opine on or share my private advice to the president.
I'm not asking about your vice president. I'm asking you, did you understand these issues, or have these become revelations as the wars unfolded?
Sir, my job is to understand all of the considerations that go into the carefully considered use of military power.
Let me ask you this then.
Yes, sir.
I understand why you don't want to respond, but these are all massive risks that seem to be poorly weighed in the beginning of this misadventure. Currently, there are reports that we have hit the Bonji desalination plant that provides water to about 20 villages or about 10,000 people, and we also damaged the desalination plant at Keshem Island. Were these deliberate targets by the United States?
So I'm not aware of those as being particular targets, nor am I aware of those reports, and I'll have to go back and get back to you on that.
If you could, I'd appreciate that. You are aware that infrastructure that civilians rely on to survive is not generally considered legitimate military targets?
Sir, as you know, we have a robust process which considers a target that goes through a system that looks at a variety of considerations to include what you're alluding to around both purely civilian or dual-use targets.
Great.
I have trust and confidence in CENTCOM that they're looking at the range of those things on a daily basis.
It sounds like you are assuring us that we will, the United States, not target, even in retaliatory sense, infrastructure that is generally considered to be primarily for civilian survival.
So, as I mentioned, we have a robust process, and we have the most professional military force.
It'd just
in
be
the world
nice
that
to have
follows
you
the
say
law.
yes, because this
That
is
follows the
international law.
Yes,
If
sir,
you
it
understand
follows
the
the law.
international law.
I do, sir. I've got a
Okay.
lot of lawyers that help me understand it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And will you get back to us on that
Yes, sir.
question of
Of
whether we
course.
targeted the
Yes, sir.
desalination plants, and
Of
if so, why? My time's up, but I do want to express encouragement to look at what the negotiators have put forward, or advisors, as to whether a 10-day break could facilitate returning to dialogue that might find a path forward.
Senator Hyde-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I want to thank all three of you for being here today. I am going to direct my first question to Secretary Rollins, and again, I want to commend you publicly for the outstanding job you're doing at USDA. You know, this is my world. As former Ag Commissioner, I hear from a lot of producers in Mississippi, and they are so pleased with your performance, and that is just truly genuine right there. But I'm pleased to see the administration's supplemental request as for ag producers, because before I
You were just listening into a Senate funding hearing. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth taking questions from U.S. senators there. Switching gears now, we want to bring in our very own Tia Ewing to talk about the story that she is working on today, a student making history for pole vaulting. Tia, tell us a little bit about this very young and talented athlete.
Yeah, so his name is DeMarco Easter, Jr. He is 18 years old. He just graduated from Maryville High School right here in Northwest Indiana. What's really interesting about his story is he has several state championships that he's actually nabbed. He's a pole vaulter, and he's the first African-American athlete to win the Indiana High School Association's Boys State Championship in the pole vault. He has many other accolades. In fact, he's considered to be Indiana's #1 high school pole vaulter during the 2026 outdoor season. But what's really interesting about his story, despite having a 3.8 GPA, despite having all of these titles, he is going to college. He's planning to go to the University of Cincinnati to study mechanical engineering, but he does not have a scholarship of athletics nor academic. And so he's saying, and so is his family, is that they're going to have a really hard time paying for this tuition. And they're just surprised with all of these accolades that he has not been able to receive any type of funding.
Wow.
So we kind of walk through his story. We meet him at the track where, you know, he typically goes to do his practices. And so I've never heard of anything like this before. Usually, you know, outstanding athletes, they walk away with a scholarship somewhere. And so far, he really wants to go to a Division I school. He wants to eventually compete in the Olympics, and no scholarship for athletics or academics.
Wow. And Tia, where does he plan to study next year? Has he officially committed?
Yeah, he's actually planning to go to University of Cincinnati. When he spoke with them about, you know, he is going to be a pole vaulter there, but he asked them about, you know, athletic scholarship opportunity, and they told him that they would like to see him in the 17s, meaning in terms of height that he achieves when it comes to pole vaulting, 17. His last record that he broke for himself actually was 16.9. So we're talking 16 feet, 9 inches, pretty close, if you do the math, to 17 feet, and still nothing.
Oh my gosh, that's so close. I mean,
it is so close.
Right. And so to be denied scholarship opportunities because of just a few inches, what else did he have to share? Is he hoping that perhaps some opportunities may still come around prior to school starting?
Well, he's hoping by sharing his story, two things happen. He wants to share a story because he is considered to be, when you look at the pool of pole vaulters across the country, he's already a minority in that by being Black, right? And so he's hoping to shed a light on the fact that more young people should consider it as a sport. That's one thing. Secondly, he's hoping by sharing his story and coming out publicly with this, because there was a little bit of apprehension initially, that maybe there's some university out there that will see his story, that will see his accolades and say, you know what, we got another spot for an amazing pole vaulter. And hey, we wouldn't mind opening up that spot to DeMarco. You never know what could happen. So that's what he's hoping for.
And Tia, did DeMarco share how he got into pole vaulting? I mean, that takes some guts to be flying through the sky like that. That is hard work. I mean, it takes real talent. You know, we think about when we watch the Olympics, we watch some of these acclaimed track and field events, and to see them just so high up, I mean, that takes a lot of courage in addition to athleticism. How did he begin to get into this?
Okay, so I wish we had more time for our story tonight, because I would have included this in there, but the actual story is that he was a track runner. He was a runner, and that his coach came to him at Maryville High School and said, turn around for me. Let me measure your arms. Let me see how tall you are. And said, you know what? Have you considered pole vaulting? He said, absolutely not. He said, once he touched that pole, though, the rest was history. In fact, his mother said that, you know, the first few times that he would participate in it, she couldn't watch because it was so, like, you know, heart dropping for her to know that her son was up this high and what could possibly happen. So she said that she would only know how well he did based on the applause.
Oh my!
I mean, the story is really phenomenal. I wish we had more time to really tell his story fully. But yeah, his story is absolutely incredible. And I'll be honest, he's the first pole vaulter I think I've ever interviewed in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think, you know, I think even doing that sport is such a rarity. That how often do we even talk about, you know, of course we've watched it in the Olympics, but how often do we talk about somebody that has, you know, gone as far as to go, you know, through high school and college? And I think part of the problem too, when you look at the grand scope, not a lot of schools around the country have pole vaulting
So
that you hear
true.
about like that. So,
No. So
we're going to introduce you to one tonight.
Go back to Mom real quick. I know you've got to wrap up your report. Does she close her eyes when she's...
Yes, she closes her eyes. She looks away. She's gotten better over the years now that he's been doing this. You know, obviously he's graduated high school, but she said for a while, the only way that she knew how well he did was based on the applause from the audience. And then that's when she would say, oh, it's over. Okay.
That's a good gauge, a good meter, the applause meter.
Yeah.
Well, Tia, thank you so much. I know you've got to wrap up your report, but we so look forward to watching it and meeting DeMarco Easter, who, as you mentioned, made history in Maryville at Maryville High School in Indiana. We wish him all the best, and we look forward to meeting him later today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
Talk to you later. Thank you, Tia.
See ya.
All right, stay with us here on Chicago Live. We've got another guest previewing a very fun event. If you're a Pokemon fan, coming up shortly, stay with us. We will be back after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 3:36 right now. We want to take a look out in California, where Governor Gavin Newsom is boasting new firefighting technology and the state's investment into it. Let's take a listen.
Process. We created a new dashboard. We exceeded our goals on completed and treated vegetation management. You can go to that dashboard today to see the interagency collaboration from federal agents to state to private in terms of treated acres and completed acreage. 3.7 million now have been treated in the last number of years. And just to give you a proof point on the 10X, from $20 million a year in vegetation management at annual funding to $200 million, and then unprecedented one-time investments that total $2.5 billion just in the last number of years to, quote-unquote, yes, I'll say it, rake our forests. Not lost on me that the President of the United States has just imposed a 50% tariff to increase your costs, because he said that Canada didn't do enough to rake their forests. That was just promoted by the President yesterday. You can't make that up. Of course, not surprising here in California. These talking points are getting exhausting. We continue to believe in science. We continue to believe in investments in human capital, and innovation is at the core of who we are. The FIRUS, there's 2 of those planes. There's actually 3. There's a backup plane. Those are best in class, went into full effect in 2020. That's an envy for people across the country. The WITTIC work we're doing in terms of prediction allows us to pre-position assets, likes of which few jurisdictions in the country are able to do. So across the spectrum, I'm very proud of OES, very proud of CAL FIRE. The artificial intelligence is not just on predictive technology like Technosilva, but it's also as it relates to some of the work we're doing on the ground. It's part of that alert network of 1,260 cameras. 915 now are AI enabled. And as Joe said, we're getting phone calls not from people to 911, but we're getting alerted by those cameras and artificial intelligence before even one phone call is made. Yes, we want to see more investment in the technology, not just the deployment of the technology, as it relates to drones and suppression. We continue to pilot different proposals and companies that are interested in this space. Most of it currently is for the built environment, for the urban interface in some cities and some countries, but not for the wildland. So we're continuing to test that technology. You may have seen on their website a few weeks ago some of that technology being tested. We read about technologies around the globe. We make the phone calls. You've got an Iron Dome of sorts, and we're interested in at least seeing if it works. But again, we're looking at scale here. 58% of the lands, I'll remind you, in California are federal. So it's all about partnership. We have just a very small percentage, less than 5% of all of the responsibility for forest management, but we do the job of the federal government in partnership through a memorandum of understanding and shared stewardship to do more to meet the needs that the federal government is unable to meet. So across the spectrum, real progress has been made, unprecedented investments, but technology has been at the forefront. And so that's what we wanted to underscore. And I'll say this on a personal basis, because so often I hear fire people say, well, it's 21st century. I hope, why aren't you investing in 21st century technology? I say, we're doing it. And we constantly have to remind people that this is a state that is on the cutting edge in terms of these tools. But we also have humility in this space, and we recognize good enough never is, and we're constantly seeking out additional partnerships and seeking out new technologies to continue to stay on the cutting edge. I'll end on this. Look, we're as dumb as we want to be. Everything about the world we're living in, get me started on, seeding the future, dominance, and new technologies. We're speaking about new technologies as it relates to alternatives to combustion engines. We're ceding that to China. And it's about statecraft for them. It's about dominating supply chains. It's about flooding the zones on tech stack, not just high-quality vehicles around the globe. We double down on stupid, and we roll back tailpipe emissions so we can pollute the planet more. Short-termism. So we actually can exacerbate the very problem we're trying to mitigate and address. Doubling down on stupid and complete denialism that climate change is real, as if there's a Democratic thermometer and a Republican thermometer. We're just fundamentally have a different mindset. We believe in science, but we also believe in our own eyes. I'll continue to remind people, and not just in folks up there in Paradise, but Grizzly Flats, Greenville, the places wiped off the map, lifestyles, traditions impacted. It's about culture. It's about people. And it's also about the economy. Climate risk is financial risk. You can't insure it. And so I hope people start connecting dots, not just to the fires, not just the acuity of the crisis as it relates to the impacts we're feeling and the heat and the stress, but also to the economy, to the geopolitical future where we don't have to be dependent on a Gulf somewhere or a strait somewhere else. And we can truly have resilient supply chains. We could dominate on technology stack, American-made technology, and continue to diversify our energy flows at the same time addressing some of the need not to have to make these unprecedented investments on the back end, but to start to prevent the very thing that we're trying to address. So forgive that editorial, but I feel it's appropriate at a time where we have $4 gas again nationally, and we see $90 cost a barrel, and we have a war of choice that seems quite literally endless. One of the worst mistakes in modern American history by a president who's way out of his league, including on this subject that brings us together here today. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
You were just listening in to a press conference out of California where Governor Gavin Newsom was announcing funding toward firefighting technology. Coming up, we've got one more guest here to talk about an exciting Pokemon exchange taking place right here in the Loop. We will have that and more, plus how you can get involved coming up. Stay right here. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are very excited to introduce our next guest, Emma Hendren, the General Manager of Chicagoland Games, to talk about Pokemon Trade Day. Pokemon has been back in the news lately in the last several years, really, ever since Pokemon Go really launched. Emma is here to talk about an exciting and upcoming event taking place right here in the Loop. Emma, thank you for being with us to explain all things Pokemon. Oh no, Emma, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go. We got you now.
Yeah, we are so excited to be able to talk about the event this weekend with the Chicago Athletic Association.
Okay, so it is happening there at the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel. Tell us a little bit, just give us kind of an overview of what Pokemon Trade Day is, and does this happen once a year, more than once a year?
We're so excited to have it for the first time this year. So we're not sure if it's going to be a multi-year thing or not. We are testing it out with them this weekend, so we're very excited. But it is an opportunity to buy, sell, and trade Pokemon cards, as well as participate in a standard event play if you're interested in playing the actual trading card game.
So for folks who are interested, are there tickets that you need to buy before coming, and is this open to the public?
It absolutely is open to the public. There are tickets available on the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel website, so you can purchase them there. And it's just a nominal $10 to enter and enjoy the event. So we're very excited to make it as accessible as possible. Anyone is welcome to purchase a ticket if you want to come in and just learn more about Pokemon in general.
How many people are expected to attend? And I mean, we're talking potentially thousands of cards being available to trade, to sell. We saw that huge Pokemon event in Grant Park in recent weeks. What has kept Pokemon so popular after all these years?
I think it's the everlasting quality of something that means so much to people when they get to enjoy it. So with Pokemon, whether you're introduced to it through video games, through the anime, there's so many different ways to learn about it. But once you have engaged with it, it's something that really becomes a special part of something that you love, and then you get to share that love with others. As to how many folks we're hoping for at this event, we are looking, I think we have the cap at 150 people for the event, so we're hoping to get as close to that as we can.
And talk about the age range. Are you seeing that this is mostly younger individuals, or are we talking also nostalgia and a lot of older adults wanting to take part in these events as well?
Sure. So we have a wide variety. In fact, at the store every week, we have a junior league on Saturdays where youth can play up to about 12 to 13 years old. And then on Mondays and Saturday evenings, we have events that are more geared towards adults. But it's definitely something where we have youth and adults engaged in the trading card game. And it's great to have so many people interested in it.
And tell us more about Chicagoland Games.
We have been an Edgewater staple now for 18 years this Halloween, which we're so excited for. It is a board game store that offers board games, trading card games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. We also do miniature war games like Games Workshop Warhammer, things you've heard of that type, and role-playing games. So Dungeons and Dragons, games like that.
And what would you say is the most popular game that you sell at Chicagoland Games? Or maybe top three. Give us top three.
Absolutely. So we definitely have a wide variety. I'd say that one of the more popular is Warhammer these days. It's really something that grew during COVID. So people coming in and playing miniatures games, we have that a lot. We also have Magic the Gathering is a large part of what we do at the store. And Pokemon is another. It continues to grow, starting around the Pokemon Go era, as you said, and then it also had a big rise in the COVID era when people were collecting and sort of finding things to do with their groups that they could do. It is something that really started to grow then.
And let's get back to the worth of these cards. People will be trading them at the event at the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel. How much have you seen or heard of some of these cards going for? And what about for all of the people who have held onto their cards? Maybe they're in mom or dad's attic at home. What do you see these going for in terms of hard, cold cash?
Sure, that is a very difficult question to ask because it depends on the cards and the condition they've been left in. So it is something where ones that have been sitting in the attic may not sell as much. But for instance, there are some cards, one that we'll have this weekend that we're very excited for is a Mew Gold Star. And that one we have is damaged, but at damaged, it's still worth $1,200. So it's something where some of these cards could be worth thousands of dollars. And if you have an older copy that might show some damage, it still can be worth quite a bit of money. So it depends on the popularity of the card. You'll see the Charizards and things like that are cards that typically will garner more interest and value.
Yeah, what would a Charizard go for? If you're talking a damaged card would go for $1,200 of the other type.
You know, that is a wonderful question. Pokemon is not my absolute expertise, but I know that there are several Charizards that would be in the thousands.
Wow.
It just, like I said, it'll depend on the set, the year it came out, things like that.
Sure. And what advice do you have for folks who are just getting started in collecting, in terms of keeping those cards in good condition?
The number one thing that you can do is put it in a sleeve as soon as you've opened the card from the pack. It really will make a huge difference in making sure that they don't get scratches on it, that they don't get, as they rub up against other cards, get damaged or hurt in any way. So putting them in sleeves, putting them in binders, doing what you can to protect the integrity of the card makes a big difference when you're reselling them and even playing with them.
And tell us a little bit more about what folks can expect if they do venture out to your store. You mentioned it's in Edgewater. And are there other activations that you're involved in similar to this weekend's trade day throughout the year?
Sure. So we do have events that we take part in. We have for a long time gone to certain conventions. We go to Dragon Con in Atlanta every year, actually, which is a great fun one that I enjoy going to. And we do Adepticon, which used to be in Schaumburg, but now is in Milwaukee. And we have in the past worked with C2E2 and Fan Expo Chicago. So these days we don't always go every year to those events, but we do our best to make sure that we're represented there and we're there for our community. And as you said, the store's in Edgewater, so we have been there for such a long time and we love being there. We have people come in regularly from the suburbs, from other parts of the city. We even have international travelers who will come and they'll search for a board game store in Chicago and they'll come to our store because of all of the positive online reviews and everything else that we have. It's sort of a staple for gaming in the city of Chicago that we have people coming from international trips that want to come into the store.
And have you found it to be challenging in recent years with so many games being played online and on phones? Or are people still seeking that tangible board game?
It's absolutely something that people are still seeking. It's wonderful to sit around a table with your family, with your friends, and get to engage in a board game or a role-playing game story like Dungeons and Dragons. There's just something that can't be replicated in a video game world. And I love video games. I still play them all the time, but there's something about board games and other things that can really bring people together and a quality that you don't get playing online with your friends or something like that. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
And Emma, do people still come in for the classics, Clue, Monopoly, Life? Are those still available at your store, and are they still popular?
Yes, we absolutely still have them at the store, and it's something that a lot of people will come in, especially near the holidays, people looking for that. And then we have a great way to sort of guide them into stepping up from that and introducing different board games. But we do our best to keep those classics in stock because it's still something that has nostalgia and value and love in so much of the community. And we want to make sure that we have that available for everyone.
Emma, one more time, this weekend's event, are tickets still available? If so, where should viewers go to register?
There are absolutely still tickets available, and they can go to the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel's website, and they have the tickets available there. You can go to their events page, and it's right there accessible and very easy to find.
And real quick, where is your store located in Edgewater? What's the nearest intersection so folks know how to find you?
We are right off the Bryn Mawr Red Line at Broadway, Bryn Mawr, and Ridge. So it's that three-way intersection. It's hard to miss.
Thank you so much, Emma Hendren, the GM of Chicagoland Games. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for staying with us here on Chicago Live. Lots of great conversations. We talked with our very own Tia Ewing about a story that she is covering. You can catch that coming up on the news at 4 and again at 5. It's about an Indiana student who made history as a record-breaking pole vaulter for his region. You'll hear from him. You'll meet him in Tia's report. We also chatted with Brett Bagansky about the story that he is working on today, a street performer that was arrested for violating a noise ordinance downtown. He chatted with that street performer who is now out of his equipment because it was taken and locked up when that arrest was made. All of those stories and more coming up on the news at 4. Thanks for being here.
From Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Right now at 4, this July is breaking the wrong kind of record. What's linking 6 deaths this month in Cook County?